Hey, what's up guys? It's Zach with Fire and Ferment. Today, we're going to be making sausage from scratch. Sausage is one of the three components of the Texas Trinity, which is also comprised of brisket and pork ribs. It's so easy to make when you have the right equipment, and trust me, it's worth it to make it at home. We're going to be using our scraps from previous beef and pork trims, so this is super cheap and does not require much cost at all. I used to throw away my beef and pork trimmings, and what a waste. This is a great way to be sustainable and is better than any store-bought sausage I've ever had. This recipe is for a basic house sausage that we're going to throw some cure on there, cold smoke it, and then finish it off the right way so we end up with a nice, snappy casing. These have a little bit of spice, a lot of juiciness, and a lot of straight-up goodness. So let's get after it. Here's our ingredients list. I've got 4 pounds of brisket meat from previous brisket trims that's just been hanging out in my freezer for a few months. I've tried my very best to cut off as much of the fat as I can so we're left with just the meat. You don't have to be perfect on that, I just do my very best with it. You'll want to cube it up just like I have here so it'll fit easily through the meat grinder. It's the same story with the pork. 4 pounds of this, just the meat, cubed up in the freezer and ready to go. Next up here in the middle, we've got 2 pounds of fat. This is a mix of pork and beef fat from previous trims. Just use whatever you have on hand. Measure all of this up in grams. You want a total of 4,536 grams of meat and fat together. This is important so the other dry ingredient ratios are correct for the amount of meat that we have. It should be noted that when we grind this up, we want it to be cold. Not frozen solid, but somewhere kind of between refrigerator cold and frozen. There's a lot of friction in that grinder, so the colder the meat and fat, the better. It'll grind up easier and that fat's less likely to melt from all that friction and heat. So these are gonna go back into the freezer for now. Next up are spices. To start off with, we want to measure out 2% of the total weight of meat and fat in kosher salt. For us, this is going to be 90 grams. This is Diamond Crystal Kosher Salt. Next up are pink curing salt, aka Prague powder number 1. This is going to be 0.25% of the total weight. For our purposes, this is 11 grams of pink curing salt. We use this for safety purposes. Since we're going to be cold smoking these sausages, it's going to be below 140 degrees while we cold smoke, which is technically the danger zone. So this is going to help facilitate a chemical reaction, which keeps that meat safe while it's cold smoking in the danger zone. That way we don't develop things like botulism and other harmful bacteria. We'll go in with 25 grams of mustard powder, 27 grams of granulated garlic, 16 grams of 16 mesh black pepper, 12 grams of paprika, 6 grams of cayenne pepper, and 150 grams of high temp milk powder. This serves as our binder to get the right texture and make sure that our sausage isn't crumbly. We also have 1 pound of cold water that we're gonna add later on. We're gonna go ahead and mix all of this up except for the water, that comes in later, and then we'll move on to grind our meat. Alright guys, I've got my eyes set on an actual dedicated meat grinder that when I get one, I'm going to use that for future sausage and burger grinds that I'll also make other videos over, but I don't have one of those, so we're going to be using our handy dandy KitchenAid with a meat grinder attachment, which gets the job done and works just fine. Once again guys, when we grind everything up, we want to keep it all cold, so I've got the meat grinder along with our meat out in the freezer. I'm going to run and grab that and then we can grind it all up. All right, so we've got our cubed meat out of the freezer as well as our supplies. Everything's set up and ready to go. So now we'll get to grinding. This video is brought to you by our sponsor, Woodchuck Firewood. Woodchuck has all kinds of different wood. They're based out of Valley Center, Kansas, but they ship their wood all over the country. If you're on the lookout for wood splits that you need for your barbecue, fire pit, or fireplace, Woodchuck Firewood is your one-stop shop. Type in the link below into your browser to access their website. Contact them if you want to place an order and let them know Fire and Ferment sent you over, and they'll take good care of you. Whew, this is a grind, man. All right, so now we've got 10 pounds of pork and beef along with pork and beef fat ground up and ready to go right here. We're gonna mix our dry ingredients, which are right here. And in order to best mix this, I like to transfer it to a bigger pot. A big pot like this allows me to really get deep in there with my hands and mix everything up aggressively. That way I don't have to worry about anything falling out or splashing out or anything like that. Now this meat is extremely cold, which is good. So when I mix this with my hands, I've got glove liners on underneath these. And these things are the bomb because they allow me to handle things that are not only really cold, but also really hot. This takes a ton of elbow grease. If you're not breaking a sweat with this move, then you're not doing it right. Now that we've got our dry ingredients mixed up, we're gonna add our 1 pound of cold water and then mix that up to get the right tackiness and the right texture. You'll know it's the right consistency when you can form a patty and it'll just want to stick to the palm of your hand. So now that we've got everything mixed up, including the water, it's time to stuff these sausages. This is our sausage stuffer, and again, we want to keep everything cold. So all of these components have been in the freezer up until now. So what we want to do is pack the meat into this chamber here, but we want to be careful not to add any air bubbles because that'll end up in our casings. So we want to just work to pack it really tightly so there's no air bubbles in here. Here I've got some natural hog casings, which is what we're going to use to stuff these sausages. They come packed and preserved in salt, so we like to soak them in water so that we rinse all that excess salt off of there. Make sure you also run some water down the middle of them to wash out any salt from the inside too. Now we simply just find the opening of the casing and we stretch it on over our chute. So now we want to just tie off the end so we can start cranking these sausages into the casings. Snip the tip. We begin by stuffing the casings by turning the crank, and we want to apply the correct amount of pressure so we get a full, plump sausage, but not so full it pops the casing. When we fill up a link to our desired size, we twist the casing so we can make the next link, and carry this on to the very end, then tie the end off. We've got these on a cookie sheet. We're going to throw them in the fridge overnight. This is going to allow plenty of time for the sodium nitrite in the cure to convert to nitric oxide gas. The nitric oxide gas is actually what cures the meat and makes it safe. So we need to let these sit in the fridge overnight in order to give them plenty of time for this reaction to take place so it's safe. It's going to take a total of 12 to 24 hours altogether to fully cure. Guys, hear me out. If you're not letting your sausages cure for a total of 12 to 24 hours in the fridge, and then you cold smoke them right away after stuffing them, you're potentially making a dangerous sausage. Think botulism. This step is arguably the most important step in this whole process, and it's for food safety, so please don't skip this. My wieners and I will see you back tomorrow for the smoke. It's the next day. Let's get our smoker going. We're going to cold smoke these, so what we want to start with is just building a small little coal bed and throw a big wood split on there. We're cooking with post oak. We just want to apply smoke here. We're not trying to cook these. The temp in the offset will run about 100 to 130 max, and we'll cold smoke these for 4 hours. Hey guys, I just want to let you know that I love making content for you. This is one of my passions and I love sharing my passion with other people. If you want to see more of this type of content, you can help me create more by liking this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on this video to let me know what you think of the recipe or if you want to see anything else from me. Thank you guys and I appreciate you all. Alright guys, it's been 4 hours. That red color is pure smoke flavor that we've just applied to the sausages. It's time to take these off the cold smoke. Next up, we want to throw these sausages into an ice bath, which shocks the casing and blooms them up. One major key component to any good barbecue is having a high quality instant read thermometer to A, get an accurate temp reading on your meat so you know right where you're at in the cook, B, check for doneness using the probe feel test, which feels like a hot knife through butter. For me, I use a ThermoPro Lightning, which is an industry standard. This thing is well built, durable, waterproof. It gives you an accurate temp reading within 1 second, which is incredibly fast. Click on the link below I've shared in the description to purchase your very own ThermoPro Lightning and type in code ThermoProTeam for 15% off your order. At this point, we can either cook them all the way or we can vac seal and freeze for a later cook. I'll definitely save some of these for later, but we'll cook some up for dinner tonight. We'll build our fire up and get our cook chamber up to 275 and throw these sausages on. We'll plan for 30 to 45 minutes until done. It's been 35 minutes at 275 degrees and these are hot. Done would be above 165, but these are super forgiving and I've accidentally taken these up to 180 to 190 and they were still perfect and juicy. Let's dig in. That's how we make smoked sausage at fire and ferment. If you like this type of content and you want to see more of it, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and click on that little bell icon so you don't miss any new content. I love you guys, and stick around.